Hi guys, it's the team at The Heavy Chef come to talk to you about ORM today, and I've got one of our Heavy Chef team, Jason Bagley from B-Bag Media and Worldwide Creative with us, but also Rob Stokes from Quirk representing the Gingers today. So guys, we want to talk about ORM. It's a very, very big buzz topic at the moment, and everyone's saying, oh, we need to do it, we need to do it, we need to manage this reputation online. And I think most of our viewers have read a few of them, they understand what it is, but I just want to first of all kick off by asking, is it worth it? Is it worth doing?
Based on my experience, absolutely. The more you respond, the more you can engage with your customers, the more stuff you can find out, the more you can please them. I don't really see a downside.
What if, when you start to engage with customers, especially online, and there's this whole fear of control and people suddenly taking over your brand, let's say, is it something that just amplifies the problem, that suddenly there wasn't a place to complain and now they can go online and start complaining?
Look, I think people started monitoring brands heavily 2 years ago. The industry trickled into beginning about 5 years ago. People were bitching about companies online 15 years ago. So I don't think it necessarily amplifies it.
Do you think that companies are monitoring and solving problems? Or are they monitoring and then just leaving it, or monitoring?
I think it very much depends on the company. Look, I'll also say this, that just purely on our clients, probably only 20% of what we pick up is actually whinging. I'd say there's an equal portion of celebrating, and most of the stuff is just commentary. And the insight one can gain from that commentary can be very useful for a brand. If I look at a campaign we've run recently for eMarketing, they're getting in the hundreds of mentions every day, and we don't respond to all of it. Some of it, there's nothing one can do. In the general forums, Facebook, etc., we will respond en masse, and certain individuals we will respond to where it's relevant, but we won't necessarily respond to everything, because it's not always necessary. But it's not always about, as I said, about people complaining. There's a lot of people saying great things, and sometimes you want to amplify that. But also, in many respects, ORM is the new focus group. Kind of get a dipstick of what your customers are saying, start to pick out trends.
Yeah, I think that's good. One of the points you mentioned there was that you don't necessarily always have to respond. I'll put this to you, Jace, because I know that you deal a lot with the nuts and bolts of ORM and the customer service that needs to go along with it to make it work. And I know that a lot of pressure is put on you by certain companies to respond to everything. You have to respond to everything. You have to respond to every single comment there. But is that right?
I think also by Rob, you did say it earlier, some conversations you actually can't get involved in with, because a client will almost ask you like an open-ended question of, is there a fair use policy, and then, but why did you put that in place? Now, to go on into debate with that customer online, it's never going to possibly end in a sort of a civil agreement between the two of you. So some stuff needs to be, I think, left alone, because the person's actually just trying to solicit like some sort of to actually get you to respond, where they can then like almost have like a friendly debate with you and almost get you into a position where you don't want to be responding.
So from a corporate perspective then, because what you guys are describing seems very much like it's a customer service role, more than I think where ORM seems to get put into the marketing field. Is this the response for a big company? Is ORM the responsibility of the customer service team, or is it the responsibility of the marketing and specifically within that the brand manager? Who does this belong to?
It really depends on the brand. If you look at someone like eMarketing, a huge amount of their online mentions are customer service and or sales related. And those should be dealt with through those same channels. In my opinion, social media is just another communications channel. It has its own unique rules, but like every channel has its own unique rules. And it really, if it's a service problem, it should be dealt by customer service. If it's a sales opportunity, dealt with sales. Sometimes they're marketing opportunities. So for example, someone says, I'm really loving the service from XYZ brand. The marketing person can then use that as an opportunity to create a brand ambassador, can maybe just amplify it if it's not too generic. But yeah, I think it really boils down to what end of the business it's working towards.
So with that then, does that mean that the best people to be doing ORM should you go to an outsourced company to do this, or should you be doing it internally? Because if it's so close to your brand and so close to your customer, is an outsourced company well enough equipped to be able to answer the questions correctly, to get across that sense of brand feeling that that an in-house customer service or in-house brand manager has? So should it be outsourced or should it be internal, or is it a mix of both?
Look, I think it ends up being a mix of both. My belief is that it should be done by the client, because as you say, it's so close to their brand that it's very difficult for an agency to offer a true representation of that brand, as try as it's what they like. The reality is that it's a relatively new world, and most brands, most companies don't have the manpower in place, the expertise in place to handle it. So we find with most of our clients it's a journey. So often it'll start off with us doing most of the work, but it's our goal to transition it to the client. And I see the agency's role as being kind of the custodian of best practice, if you will, because the agency deals with a lot of clients, gets to learn a lot of different things by exposing themselves to different opportunities. Their job is to bring that kind of thinking back to the client. But in terms of day-to-day management, I do think it should be at the client's side, where they have the capacity to do it.
And how long? There's a good question about capacity. How long does it take? How much manpower is needed to do this?
I think often one of the mistakes made is that there'll be a social media manager managing all the incoming inquiries, and that, back to my previous comment about the fact that some things are customer support, some things are sales, etc. You wouldn't have a marketing person dealing with customer support over the telephone. Why would you have them do it over Facebook or Twitter or what have you? So once again, it should be spread across channels. Look, for most big brands these days, particularly brands that have a large consumer focus or in a technology space where the customer's more likely to be online, it's more than one person's job. But if you break it up and you manage the workflow around the online reputation monitoring, and how those mentions are spread through the organization, and just having systems in place to ensure that the balls are not dropped. You don't have one person thinking they were due to respond and the other person thought they were. It actually balances out quite easy. So instead of having 1 or 2 or 3 people having it as their full-time job, you just have a whole bunch of people who it just becomes part of the way they do things.
Okay. That's obviously, we've spoken a lot about the dealing with the problem. I think once the problem arises there, you mentioned about the monitoring. And I think that's a key thing. I mean, there's a lot of noise out there. You need to have the best thing to pick up that noise. Now I know you're probably a little bit biased in what you should use for that. But there are a hell of a lot of tools out there that profess to be able to pick up all this noise.
Nothing picks up all the noise.
Okay.
I'll say that for starters.
That was a question I was going to ask, because I think that's also almost not a fallacy, but I think you explain to client that this has happened before with us. We'll search, this is your report and this is all the mention, and they're throwing this blog post that they found somewhere, and they're like, how come you didn't pick this up? And then you almost you sit in this position where you're trying to explain that the World Wide Web is just so huge.
It is too big, and it's not just, obviously the web's growing very fast and expanding, and certain things are easy to track, things like Twitter, but getting into closed walls is hard to track. So there's certain monitoring you can do on Facebook around public pages and things like that, but as soon as you get into people's personal profiles, it becomes very difficult. But the reality is Google can't track everything, and no reputation monitoring software, as far as I know, has got more capacity and server power than Google. Many of them actually use Google as an input. But no, you can't. I would never profess to be able to pick up everything. That would be a suicidal game, because you will get in trouble.
Okay, so just to round up, do you think this is ORM's here to stay? Then it's not just a buzz thing; it's a necessary thing. Do you think it's going to grow and develop, or do you think we're actually at the point where this is basically the way it's going to be within the industry now?
Oh, I think it's huge room for growth. I mean, the reality is it's here to stay. I mean, even if you just draw parallel to traditional press monitoring, which has been around for years, even that's not going anywhere. There is a conversation happening online. You, as a brand, you either choose to ignore it or acknowledge it. But I think where ORM is now is very different to where it'll be in 5 years' time.
Hopefully, you guys have learned something. I certainly have. Cheers.